Comments for the week ending January 22nd from the beef farmers of Ontario. There were 287 head of fed steers and heifers sold through auction markets last week, down 197 head from the previous week. Fed steers averaged $312.93 per hundredweight, up $8.46 per hundred, and fed heifers averaged $309.90 per hundredweight, down $118 per hundred from the previous week's trade. Auction markets reported on Tuesday that fed steers and heifers sold steady. By Thursday, fed cattle sold $1 per hundredweight higher. In Ontario, dress sales were reported at $5.30 per hundredweight delivered, steady with the previous week. Cattle were being booked for the week of February 2nd and February 9th delivery. For the week ending January 20th, Eastern fed cattle and cow exports to the U.S. were 3,821 head, 151% above the 5-year average. Year-to-date, Eastern fed cattle and cow exports are up 95% from last year. Cull cow receipts sold through auction markets last week were 2,139 head, down 523 head from the previous week. Cows averaged $169.09 per hundredweight, up 62 cents per hundred. Beef cows averaged $180.51 per hundredweight, up $182 per hundred from the previous week's trade. Auction markets reported on Tuesday that fed cows sold actively at stronger prices. By Thursday, fed cows sold steady on a good demand. Total receipts were 7,294 head last week, with receipts of 3,315 stock and feeder cattle selling through Ontario auction markets, down 775 head from the previous week. Auction markets reported on Friday, January 16th. The calves sold on a strong, active trade with prices $5 per hundredweight higher. Yearlings sold steady. By Thursday, all classes of stockers sold actively on a stronger market. The Quebec electronic market last week sold at $5.28 per hundredweight dressed on a picked-up basis. Last week, Alberta fed prices averaged over $300 per hundredweight. Prices are $15 per hundredweight shy of their high set back last fall. Dressed sales were reported from $5.05 to $5.08 per hundredweight delivered, $5 to $8 per hundredweight higher than the previous week. Most of the cattle that traded were scheduled for the first half of February delivery. U.S. pack interest was noted. By Wednesday, January 21st, light trade developed with dress sales reported from $5.05 to $5.08 per hundredweight delivered, steady with the previous week. For the week ending January 17th, 2026, Western Canadian fed processing was 36,792 head. Year-to-date processing is 3.7% higher than last year. The U.S. cash cattle trade last week saw most of the trade take place on Friday, and a stronger price tone was noted from Friday morning to Friday afternoon. Dress sales in Iowa and Nebraska were at $3.70 per hundredweight, $5 per hundredweight higher than the previous week. Live sales in all 4 major feeding states were from $2.33 to $2.36 per hundredweight, steady to $4 per hundredweight stronger. USDA released its January 1st cattle on feed report last Friday and was viewed as neutral, as placements and marketings were in line with expectations. Feedlot placements for the month of December were 5% lower than last year. This is the 9th consecutive month that feedlot placements have been below last year. Cattle on feed inventories are 3% lower than last year. This is the smallest January 1st cattle on feed inventory since 2017. This is Jamie Kerr with the Beef Farmers of Ontario Market Information Report.